Workers of the world unite, it's time for Genestealer Cults 101. Hi guys, Tom of 6++ here, and I am back with a brand new 101 series that I'm extremely excited about. It's the Genestealer Cults, ladies and gentlemen, and they've got a brand new book. They're in a really nice spot, new rules, all ready to play some 9th edition games. So this is going to be the introductory session. I'm going to talk you through a little bit about the Genestealer Cults, think about why you might want to play them, think about what their obvious strengths and weaknesses are. In future series, we'll be deep diving, just as we've been doing with the other Drakari books. So, without further ado, let's talk about who we're dealing with today. So, who are the Genestealer Cults? Well, the Genestealer Cults are the vanguard of the oncoming Tyranid invasion. Hidden away, having infiltrated Imperial planets, they have been getting together, converting the populace, breeding new monstrosities in the sort of deep and dark places of the world, getting ready for the day of ascension, where they'll launch their attack and try to take over a planet or cripple it from the inside, leaving it ready for the Tyranids to eat it and them and everybody else in true Tyranid style. The Genestealer Cults are very much an army made up of the sort of the underbelly of the Imperium, ordinary people who've, for one reason or another, been taken in and converted by the cult, and the monstrosities and subsequent sort of hybrid generations of Genestealer human hybrids that they have bred as they wait underground, preparing for the right moment. They're led by a patriarch, which is a huge, powerful Genestealer, and they have a whole array of sort of characters and utility units specially bred for the war to come. So they're a really interesting army. They play as you would expect in many ways, with that kind of hit and run guerrilla warfare style approach. And they've had great support and a whole new model range released over the last 2-3 editions, representing their relatively new status in terms of full 40k presence, although they go way back in the lore, all the way to the days of Rogue Trader. So, why would you play them? Do you love it when a plan comes together? Do you love shenanigans? Do you like it when the plucky underdog gets one over the very finest soldiers the universe has to offer using nothing but knives and stolen bits of mining equipment? If you do, they are the army for you. Genestealer Cults are all about tricks, all about ambushes, all about catching the opponent out, all about underhanded, dastardly tactics to get one over much superior forces and the sort of super elite arrayed enemies of the Imperium. So in that sense, I think it appeals to those who want to play the underdog, and it appeals to people who want to lean into their jankier side, use shenanigans to their advantage, and try to get one over on the opponent through clever combinations and clever plays. The new book is really exciting. I've been playing with it for a little while now, and it has good balance and lots of really interesting options for building different types of army and different types of cult. And so in that sense, it's a very exciting time to be playing Genestealer Cults as well. I think we'll now move to thinking a little bit about their strengths before considering some of the things that you need to bear in mind in terms of weaknesses and limitations as well. So, strengths. The obvious strengths for Genestealer Cults can be defined as tricks, synergies, and damage output. In terms of tricks, this book has tons of stratagems, absolutely dozens of really good stratagems, all of which you may well want to use in a game at a given time, that help you to get the best out of your units, that help you to pull off surprising tricks on the table. In proficient planning, which is a whole new set of built-in rules that you can buy for individual Genestealer Cults units to give them special upgrades, to give them different tools for doing different tasks. You've got a bigger than ever suite of ways to upgrade and customize and design your lists as a Genestealer Cults player to do specific things and to get one over the enemy in particular ways, which is really, really good fun, really, really interesting. In terms of synergies, Genestealer Cults boast amazing cult traits. There's a load of really cool traits, warlord traits, relics, which we'll go into in more depth in future times. The psychic powers, I think the Broodmind discipline is a really strong psychic tree, offers you a lot of potential if you like psychic armies to do all kinds of tricks and to lay on a bit of damage output as well. So they're psychically quite a powerful army. And the design of the book now is such that all of the supporting characters in the right places at the right times can really lay on useful buffs, useful bits of assistance to the sort of workhorse units and soldiers and vehicles of the army to make sure that everything works together in an effective way. You've got Deep Strike army-wide, which we'll talk about in more detail in the future, but lots of ways to spring an attack on your opponent, be that at range or coming in to do things up close and dirty in melee. But you also have lots of different ways to pre-game move, lots of different ways to get things back out of trouble and into reserves, all sorts of interesting tricks that help you to make your resources last longer and keep the opponent on the back foot and second guessing what it is you're going to be doing as well. Finally, damage. Genestealer Cults love damage. You have a lot of really nice ways to lay on massive amounts of damage, particularly in combat, but also at range with the new crossfire mechanic, which we'll talk about in one of our focused episodes. So I think more than ever, GSC have the tools and the weapons to really smack down big, powerful enemies that don't take them seriously and that walk unawares into their traps. And I think the scope for building a good, balanced range and melee army is greater than ever. They were always quite a melee heavy army, but I think actually now there's a lot of range capacity and lots of nice ways to supplement that good close combat punch with very decent range punch that can really surprise the enemy when everything comes together. There are some downsides though, so let's discuss those now. So what are the downsides? What are the challenges? Well, I don't think GSC are for the faint-hearted. Probably not necessarily for new players either, because they're complex. A lot of things need to come together in the right ways for your units to function. It's all about those combinations. It's all about using those tricks, using those tools at the right times. And if they don't line up, you can find yourself falling short and you can find yourself exposed. GSC units are fragile. Probably one of the most fragile armies in the game. Very vulnerable to being killed on the counter-attack or being completely wiped out by the enemy if they're caught out of position, having failed to do what they were trying to do in the first place. So that fragility, that vulnerability makes taking objectives hard, or holding objectives hard, taking them is okay, and means that you can be vulnerable to powerful counter-punches, and especially if your stuff gets exposed and gets caught out, then you're going to lose it very quickly. So resource management is important. Not giving away your units too easily is very important. And that takes a bit of practice and takes a bit of finesse to pull off. Another thing about them is that they have a lot of tricks, but you will find with these that very good opponents who know what these are going to play a particularly cagey and cautious game and will often make it harder for you to actually bring all of these different tools to bear. So there's learning how to disrupt the enemy enough to create space, to create gaps for you to exploit is important. And against the prepared, some of these tricks don't come off quite as nicely as you would hope, because obviously, you have to signpost them. They know to a large extent what's coming if they know the book. And so it's one of those ones where not everything's going to work all the time. And there are definite risks in terms of the fragility, in terms of the vulnerability to counterpunch. I think one of the other issues is just that the book at the moment, with the nice internal balance it's got, and I think the points costing is pretty much spot on for all the different units in there, really. It can be quite hard to build a list because there's always one more thing you want to fit in. It feels like you can never quite have enough. You can never quite bring all the toys that you want, never quite have everything in there you'd hope. So that's both a good thing as a creative exercise. It means you're going to change things up and try different things, but it also reflects perhaps that they're in a sensibly balanced spot, and it's not always easy to get everything and get a list that you feel can perform well at every single thing. So ultimately, you're going to want to go one way or the other. Anyway, that's the introduction. That's going to give you a taster of what's to come. In subsequent episodes, I'm going to deep dive on the different special rules that the Genestealer Cults have. Going to think about some of the key characters, going to think about some of the key stratagems and strategies for new GSC players. In the background, I'm going to be taking GSC out to some events, starting with Beachhead in about a week, but hopefully getting out to a few more over the next few months. So I will be testing these things out in the field and seeing what they can do. So it's an exciting time to play GSC. I think I'm having run Drukhari for a year. I'm really looking forward to changing things up. I will continue to make Drukhari content in the background as well, but I think this is the moment. It's time to ascend. It's time to strike down the overlords and usher in a glorious new revolution in the arms of the loving, caring Star Children. May they welcome you into their many-armed embrace, and I will see you next time.